What is a Nuzlocke? I promise, you didn't click on the wrong video. We'll get to the little plant guys in a second. Let's just explore this question for a bit. For those unfamiliar, a Nuzlocke refers to a popular set of self-imposed rules that players will follow while running through a Pokemon game. Notoriously, this challenge permits the players to catch only a single Pokemon per in-game location, and also implements permadeath on Pokemon who faint in battle. The Nuzlocke challenge tests a player's resource management skill as well as their ability to mitigate risk. Since its initial conception, the challenge has exploded in popularity within the greater Pokemon community, and its verbiage has naturally leaked its way into the discussion of other non-Pokemon games and how they can be Nuzlocked. As someone who began his YouTube journey primarily making Nuzlocke content, and eventually expanded into other Nintendo properties, notably Pikmin, the question often gets posed to me. How would a Pikmin Nuzlocke work? I, being a deeply devoted fan of the Pikmin series, as well as a stuck-up Pokemon know-it-all, came to hate this question, and would try to brush it off every time it came up. The prospect of merging my favorite little real-time strategy game with the rules imposed by the Nuzlocke challenge was definitely an intriguing concept, but the two fundamentally do not fit together. Pikmin games only have a select few areas, and only a handful of Pikmin types, so the first rule of Nuzlocking is completely non-applicable. But let's discuss the second rule. The way a Pikmin game unfolds and progresses is very different from the RPG or unit-focused gameplay of series such as Fire Emblem or Pokemon. When a unit falls in battle, the unique attributes they offer the player are lost forever, making the journey just a little bit tougher. But when you lose a Pikmin, it's really no big deal. There's probably like 300 more in the onion ready to give their lives for the cause. So naturally, we up the stakes. Logic proceeds that for a true Nuzlocke of the Pikmin series, once you lose a red Pikmin, that could mean that you lose them as an entire type. But that poses a whole new problem because of Pikmin's lock and key style of gameplay. Without the ability to clear an elemental gate or boss, you'll never be able to completely finish the game. And at that point, you might as well just be playing a deathless run, since the consequences are essentially the same. On top of this, the ability to grow more Pikmin further complicates this resource management heavy challenge, making it so you'd also have to limit the maximum number of Pikmin you can have at a time by either adding more super specific rules having to do with treasure weights and progression barriers in order to get any semblance of a real challenge. So neither of the two rules of Nuzlocking really fit within the structure of a Pikmin game. And trying to come up with ways to bend these rules to comfortably fit with Pikmin is also an arduous task. Pikmin needed something all its own. Something not quite as strict as a deathless run. Something that was significantly more thoughtful about how Pikmin resource management should work. And something that also added a level of randomness and replayability to emulate the sort of roguelike feeling a Nuzlocke creates. Enter Ironmin. The player starts with 150 Pikmin, 30 of each type, and cannot grow any more over the course of their 30 days on the planet. They can, however, convert their Pikmin to any other type via Candy Pop Buds. The goal is to keep enough Pikmin alive so that we can collect all 30 parts and successfully escape the planet. Ironmin alone sounds fun, but isn't exactly enough for the challenge we're crafting either. Let's randomize every enemy and their stats, let's double all ship part weights, let's randomize which locations they spawn in, double the obstacle health, shorten the in-game days, and add in just a dash of bad weather. Those of you who've kept up with the channel may recognize this Ironmin challenge as one you're familiar with, as a couple months ago, I raced Dan from Press A in this format to see which of us could collect the most parts. Neither of us thought that we'd realistically be able to finish the challenge, and the race ended with myself having 22 parts and Dan having 21. Having won our Dandori showdown, you'd think I'd be satisfied with the results, but there was still a question burning in the back of my mind. Could I actually beat this? This is Chaos Ironmin. Within the Chaos Randomizer, the most difficult areas are the ones with the highest concentration of enemies. This makes smaller areas more dangerous, and that can be seen very clearly with the impact site. Although this location only has 2 parts, the sheer abundance of pellet posies gives the randomizer a lot of ammo to work with, and this is only exacerbated by their fast respawn rate, making progressing over multiple days rather difficult, as enemies don't stay cleared out for long. The Forest of Hope starts you off in this small, enclosed area, which in itself can be infested with enemies, but the real danger in the area is located behind the bombable wall next to the SS Dolphin. There are a lot of enemies that spawn back by the Extraordinary Bolt and the 2 gates to the Nova Blaster. There are some minor optimizations you can make to influence which direction the Pikmin choose to bring back ship parts, but the clear worst part of the level is the hallway near the Extraordinary Bolt. Sometimes this strip of land is impassable without severe casualties, and is easily one of the deadliest sections of the game. The Forest Navel can be a really fun one in the randomizer, but don't let that fool you. The strange and multi-layered terrain passively gives buff to enemies like the cannon beetles and those who can fly, and making the decision to engage in combat with the swaths of enemies at the start is generally ill-advised. This little mound of dirt right here is a nightmare, every single day, without exception. The area down by the Puffstool is also genuinely a huge challenge, and things can go south really quickly. The Distant Spring is probably the most forgiving location in Chaos Ironmin. Being the biggest map, the enemy density is at its lowest here, making traversal much more straightforward than it is in any of the other areas. The Distant Spring also houses 10 parts, a third of what we need overall, so we're going to be spending a lot of time here. Some of the part locations in the Distant Spring are super volatile as well, specifically the yellow Pikmin exclusive parts like the Chronos Reactor and UV Lamp, and depending on what these parts roll into, you'll get a good idea of how you'll need to structure your run. Lastly, the final trial only unlocks after collecting the first 29 parts, so we can't quite worry about that area yet, as we first need to complete all 4 of these areas before we can land there. With the randomizer enabled, open progression is a thing, meaning that we can access all 4 of the starting areas right from the get-go. Now that the stage has been set, let's talk strategy. With doubled part weights, the heaviest part in the game is the Gluon Drive, now requiring 100 Pikmin to carry. This can be mitigated by using purple Pikmin, but if the Gluon Drive happens to spawn in the water, or is one of those yellow exclusive parts, the run becomes bottlenecked really quickly. Locating and making accounts of where heavy parts are is genuinely really important during the first few days, as you need to know if you need to convert your Pikmin at all. Because Candy Pop Buds are randomized along with enemies, there's no guarantee that you'll always have the ability to convert Pikmin into what you want. Making the decision to convert a bunch of your Pikmin to either yellows or blues is not an easy one to make, as you don't know when you'll have the ability to convert them back. With the most parts available and the most wide open area, taking a lap around the Distant Spring will reveal to you the location of 8 parts, with the remaining 2 being found in the randomized Cannon Beetle and Puffy Blowhog. This is a low stakes way of gaining as much information as possible, and it's always recommended to scout these areas with Olimar before you even try to bring in any Pikmin. Patience is a virtue in Ironmin, as trying to rush or push your advantage state usually only leads to disaster. With the shorter days and the hordes of enemies you're going to have to carefully mow down, the time pressure is as real as it's ever been in a Pikmin game. As the days pass, you'll be subjected to worse and worse weather conditions, and have fewer and fewer Pikmin, so the run's only going to get harder as you collect parts. I'll be discussing these weather effects from least intrusive to most intrusive, starting with a clear day. This is the best you're going to get. No weather. Always take the clear day unless you absolutely need to go to a different area. The darkness is pretty self-explanatory, as pretty much all it does is obscure your vision a bit and give every Bulborb an extended sensing radius. I personally hate this one, as the lights I use for streaming end up making the level even darker than intended, but I totally recognize this as just a Dandori issue. The big one replaces a randomized boss enemy with a supersized buff version of that enemy, but aside from that, isn't so bad. This one hardly shows up at all, and when it does, it rarely affects your run. Dimensional Rift is sorta like the big one, but instead of supercharging the boss enemy, it instead replaces it with the first boss of the Subspace Emissary and second best home run hitter in Mario Superstar Baseball, Mr. Peter Piranha. Mating Season causes defeated enemies to drop 1 to 3 Bulborb larvae upon finishing their death animation. I have a tricky time ranking this one, as on paper, this is extremely deadly and technically triples the amount of enemies you'll have to deal with during a day. Bulborb larvae are known for their ability to quickly kill Pikmin without the ability to save them, so reckoning with potentially hundreds of them during a day can easily cause your run to go belly up. Specifically, when groups of Matites and Spectralids despawn, you'll be hit with a wave of babies only rivaled by the final floor of the Frontier Cavern, and this can put you in a tricky spot. The Rain of Rocks is exactly what you think it is. Every few seconds, a boulder will randomly drop around your captain. This isn't as bad as it sounds though, as if you can keep the camera in the top-down view and away from Pikmin carrying things, you can usually dodge these falling rocks. Keyword usually. There is the classic audio cue that the boulders have when they drop, but sometimes in the auditory chaos of the randomizer, the cue gets eaten up and you can get jump scared by a boulder. If one hits your Pikmin, or even a bomb rock, things can be disastrous, but generally, the rain of rocks is less impactful than you think it is. Earthquake is without a doubt in my mind my least favorite weather to contend with, as randomly during the day, the screen will shake, Olimar and the Pikmin will trip, and it takes 5 or so seconds to recover from the event. Not only is the earthquake random, it happens relatively frequently, meaning that you're constantly getting interrupted and your time is eaten away. Because this causes you and your Pikmin to trip, this leaves them 100% vulnerable to anything a stray enemy might want to do to them. I like to avoid earthquake at all costs, as I believe it's probably the most impactful weather condition in the game, only really ousted from the most dangerous spot by this last weather condition. The Snap. The apocalyptic event that changed the Marvel Cinematic Universe forever has made its way in the Pikmin² as a potential weather condition. At any point during the day, Thanos will snap his fingers, instantly wiping out half your Pikmin and half the enemies on the map. This is absurd, but there are some workarounds. Because the snap can only wipe out Pikmin who are on the field, you can choose to leave them in their onions until the snap occurs, with the trade-off being that while you wait, that's really all you can do. But the thing is, the snap isn't even guaranteed to occur within these shortened days, so you may spend the entire day waiting for the snap to happen, just to end up getting nothing done in favor of having your Pikmin survive to see what's next. There's a real back and forth that the snap tries to have with the player, but it has absolutely all of the power, and really the best counterplay to it is to simply wait it out. Only if you absolutely have no time left should you try and traverse the planet with the snap hovering above your head. And even then, it's still probably not worth it at that point. So now that I've thoroughly explained what each weather effect does and how they can damage your run, let's talk about the best way to keep the skies clear. Every day that passes and every ship part you collect adds a higher chance for bad weather to occur in the areas. Now, we can't quite prevent time from passing, but we can limit how many parts we collect day to day. By dragging the ship parts next to base, but not putting them in the ship, you can sort of manipulate the game into rolling more favorable weather for you. This stockpile of parts starts to not matter as you get deeper into the game, but it does help your chances for generating clear weather in the early mid-game. Even with this knowledge about how weather works and trying to plan the best route to success, there's pretty much no predicting what's going to happen on any individual day. All of this together makes for a disastrously difficult challenge, one that, as you've seen, I've failed a multitude of times. But I wasn't ready to give up on it just yet. I began day 1 on the impact site, as even though I think the distant spring is generally better as a start for the run, going to the impact site on day 1 has some notable advantages. Because there aren't nearly as many pellet posies on day 1 compared to the later days, there's less enemies overall. It's ever so slightly better. I can move a box. If I can get the groink down, maybe he can groink all over the place. We'll see. I spent the beginning of the day using the enemies against each other. Once I was comfortable with how many were defeated, I brought out some purples and cleared away most of the threatening enemies near my base and opened up the way to the first ship part. Unfortunately, there wasn't much more we could do with the day, as without a Dirigibug spawn, we couldn't get bomb rocks and therefore couldn't access the second part. Yeah, if there was a Dirigibug, I kind of like this idea though. I mean, not that this is like that bad either. This is even a good day, I'd say. Undeterred, I decided it was going to be all or nothing in the impact site, and I headed back for day 2 to try and see if I could wrap up the area. And yeah, the enemies were all back. This was probably a horrible idea to start here. Day 2 was a mess, and we lost 2 purples trying to gain access to the bomb rocks being guarded by a groink and a pair of cannon beetles. I blow past the stone gate and bait the Wally Hop out of the water in order to make sure that our Pikmin can carry the part back to base. We only have 30 blues, so anything heavier than this in the water would be impossible to carry right now. Thankfully, it didn't end up mattering, and all of a sudden, we had 2 parts ready to be collected. 2 purples for a clean impact site. I mean, there have been worse ways to start a run. Day 3, we were back on track in the distant spring. I took the opportunity to survey my surroundings and make note of some of the part locations. Got Groink Team Demo. Hell yeah, I'm going to get him to do this wall first, ideally. But he's going to want to do the other one first. One of the coolest minor additions in Pikmin² is that Gatling Groink missiles now have the ability to damage bramble and stone walls for a third of a bomb rock's damage per blast. I use this destructive power to my advantage and get the Groink to break down both the black bramble gate and the white bramble gate guarding the massage machine. I wasn't quite done with them just yet, and lured a different one over to break down the weak white bramble wall by the log bridge. The Gatling Groink's AI can be finicky to manipulate, as their pathfinding and range works different from most enemies in the game. But usually, if you let it de-aggro from you and wander for a bit, you can catch it again in a more favorable position. I do this to get the first one to move close enough to break down the white stone gate on the west side of the map. It's day 3. We don't have to Dandori that hard right now. Plus, I still have the entire tail end of the day to bring my blues over there, which is what I plan to do. And then hopefully the Groink will wander. I decide to start my blue Pikmin on the Skull Island bridge and use some of my purples to clear out enemies for a smoother day 4. If it looks like I cut it close, almost leaving my blues behind on the bridge at the end of the day, I'd tell you that you're imagining things. Gaslighting aside, we were back in the spring on day 4. Alright, we got a bunch of walls down. That was beautiful. It is a decorated cannon beetle all the way out there, so I will not be doing the far part. I finished the Skull Island bridge and grabbed the shock absorber as well as 10 bombs for the Blackstone gate by base. This gate requires 18 bombs to get through, so getting a head start on it is definitely nice. One of the more minor adjustments I made over the course of my attempts was fanning out the yellows in order to ensure they didn't get caught on the bombs as I whistled them back to me. 1 or 2 yellows dead for every broken wall was not a good trade to make, as with the randomized stats, the bomb rock health also varies, making some detonation timers extremely quick. So this spreading out method prevented a lot of unnecessary Pikmin deaths and was generally less risky for me. I recovered the UV lamp from this upper ledge and dragged both it and the shock absorber into a position where they were ready to be collected. I rounded out the day letting the blues build some of the bridge by the Omega stabilizer. Oh no, not again. I got 10 seconds left in the day. Watch this. The day counter is going to start right now. You guys are going to go, F the blues, the blues. But I'm over here. With them. So now you guys can't go, F the blues. I began day 5 by letting the blues continue their work on the bridge and finish destroying the Blackstone wall by base. And then I kind of didn't know what to do next. I turned my attention to the radiation canopy, which had spawned where the UV lamp normally is. Retrieving the radiation canopy required 60 yellow Pikmin, but since I didn't have 60 yellows, I tried to get creative. I attempted to use a trick called Pikmin magnetism to knock it down, where the part is slowly attracted to Pikmin trying to grab onto it. But this part wasn't cooperating, so I gave up and looked for something else to do with the rest of the day. Oh, and there's a smoky prog egg and a decorated cannon beetle and the Gatling Groink right there. Huh. Okay, so what actually goes on today successfully? With the bridge completed, I was able to drag the Omega stabilizer back to the ship and then scouted the southernmost part in the water. Oh, it's the clam. Although it looks like the Libra, so... This was the Sagittarius, which required 40 blues to lift, so I couldn't get this one quite yet without first finding a blue candy pop bud. With no time left in the day, I accepted this less than stellar amount of progress and decided it was in our best interest to start work on some of the other areas. Day 6, I landed in the forest navel for the first time, and was immediately greeted by a union of Gatling Groinks. Welcome back to Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I'm your host, Ty something. Ty Burrell? Is it Burrell? No, Burrell's, that's Modern Family. It's Groink Day in the forest navel right now. We got 4 members of the demolition crew, man. That's so many. Ow. Groink demolition can be hazardous, and I actually almost died since I ended up being caught between the legs of an armored cannon beetle. Over the course of the day, the Groinks demolished the white stone gate and the white bramble gate by the ship, as well as all 3 walls leading down to the beady longlegs arena. This is the equivalent of 54 bombs worth of progress, assuming I did my math correctly, and I didn't have to get Pikmin out of the onion once, which frankly is ideal. Ooh, is that the anti-dioxin filter? Ooh, that's 80 blues. Ooh, that's a little tough, but that was a crazy Groink demolition day, guys. Getting literally the entire path to Beatty cleared is unreal, plus the stone wall at base. I wish I got the black one leading down to the Libra and the analog computer part, but I mean, I can't complain. The groinks can only work so fast, you know? Now, I wanted to go back to the Forest Navel on day 7, but I decided to check out the Forest of Hope since it was the only location with clear weather. Even though the skies were clear, that didn't stop an Emperor Bullblack from spawn camping my purple Pikmin. Despite being locked in here with all these immediate threats, I was thankfully able to break down the Bramble Gate and escape. I started mowing down enemies with purple Pikmin and noticed a Bulborb larva crawling towards me. Tell me you're the Snagrit! This was an incredible stroke of luck, as it meant that I didn't have to traverse all the way around to retrieve this part. With two parts right next to each other, relatively close to base, I turned my attention toward getting the gravity jumper. This was only guarded by a singular poison geyser, so it wasn't too much trouble to start hauling. Have we seen any groinks today? I don't think we have. I can't trust the Emperor at spawn. He is not reburied. They're gonna go over this fire geyser, I think. But they're gonna time it excellently, because they're fucking goated. Oh my god, that was frame perfect. You guys are so sweet. Let's go! With 3 parts by the base, all I could do with the remainder of the day was use this groink to break down both a white bramble and stone gate. High five, buddy. That was an excellent day in the Forest of Hope. I mean, just getting the Snagger part down is insane. I would say besides that, it was still a good day. But even with that, like, if the stupid Emperor wasn't there, then I would have considered utilizing the yellows. But, like, making that decision with all of that there, with my white Pikmin, like, I don't know. I just can't risk it. I just can't risk it. Day 8, I headed back to the distant spring to see what else I could get done. Still need 60 for the radiation canopy, because magnetism is failing me. I hear a groink. There he is. We got that part over there. All this garbage is over here. I began by clearing out a large chunk of enemies in the northern half of the map, as it would help with retrieving the parts later. I tried to start working on the log bridge leading up to the armored cannon beetle arena, but was rudely interrupted. Actually, high key, I'm going the other way. I was planning to approach the cannon beetle from the other side, and begin working on the climbing stick and geyser to get up there. In the chaos, 2 purples were eaten by a lurking Snagrit. These were the first 2 Pikmin we'd lost since day 2, but 4 total Pikmin dead isn't that big of a deal, so I press onward. With tight timing, I get my Pikmin to start climbing the stick, ready to shoot up the geyser quickly to retrieve them, and then... I can't. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. I saw the stupid puff stool. I thought the puff stool was in that spot. The most dangerous enemy in Chaos Ironmin is without a doubt the Gulix. This blob of water is absolutely diabolical and can pop out of nothing with no warning, no particle effect, no audio cue, nothing. Instantly drowning your whole squad and hitting Olimar for crazy amounts of damage. Without blue Pikmin, this enemy is a serious roadblock for progress. Even if you have blue Pikmin with you, the Gulix isn't exactly the easiest to take down. This enemy cannot be swarmed effectively, and if it's a giant-sized Gulix, simply hitting its weak spot with your Pikmin becomes really difficult to do without momentum throwing. On top of all of these annoying qualities, the Gulix can wrap other enemies in its own body, literally creating an impenetrable force field of water similar to the Droidicas from 1999's The Phantom Menace. This is our biggest op in the challenge, and because of this one, I ended up losing all but 3 of my purples. 22 Pikmin, around 15% of our total army wiped out in an instant. Normally, that might be enough for me to reset an attempt, as it's still very early in the run and there are still many dangers ahead of us. But I silently steel myself and continue forward. I got to replenish my purples with a candy pop bud, but generally, day 8 was a wash. I made as much progress on the log bridge as possible, but figured since I defeated a lot of the enemies, day 9 would go a bit smoother. I was wrong. The enemies were acting up like crazy on day 9. After being yet again blocked by a cannon beetle from trying to take on the boss spawn, I turned my attention to the automatic gear on Kronos Reactor Island. This proved pretty easy, but the game did not let up on its bullshit. I lose a Pikmin here killing some enemies, and move both the automatic gear and main engine close to base with the remainder of the day. Clear skies in the Forest Navel on day 10. Just like last time, I don't even bother getting my Pikmin out of the onion, and instead use Olimar to bait the enemies into unaliving each other. This literally took most of the day. Once a decent chunk were eliminated, I got out my purples and began to go to work. Knowing that the anti-dioxin filter's in the water, I know we need at least 80 blue Pikmin to successfully complete the run. I start on the bridge up to the guard satellite and retrieve the second Ionium jet from an unknown Dweevil. After that disaster with the Gulix on day 8, I wasn't about to take too many chances with my army, and decided to ignore the flathead longlegs that had spawned in place of BD. Really uneventful day, all things considered, but hey, progress is progress. Day 11, I decide to run it back to the Forest Navel, and am greeted by a sound that normally inspires fear in the hearts of Pikmin players. I, however, have developed a mutual understanding with the Water Wraith, as at the end of the day, we both have the same goal. Kill everything that moves. So I walked the Wraith around the map like my dog, reveling in my limited partnership with the Lovecraftian nightmare. Of course, despite all this, the Wraith couldn't kill the Gulix. I mean, yeah, I don't know either. This enemy is not okay. After that, I noted the locations of the Eternal Fuel Dynamo and the Analog Computer, and got out a squad of Pikmin to hopefully make some progress on the Puffstool part. Even though I'd already used the Wraith to decimate a bunch of enemies down here, the Gulix and some Cannon Beetles made bringing the ship part back an actual headache. In fact, I was kinda trapped down here, so as I waited for the day to end, I decided to end my partnership with the Wraith and revealed the secret safe with 0 seconds left on the clock. It's not that I wanted another part down there. It was more so I wanted to beat the boss. Because if we're going to have to go down there anyway, and we're going to have to clear the path anyway, we might as well carry 2 parts. With the snap present in both the Forest Navel and the Forest of Hope, I didn't have an option but to land on the Distant Spring again on day 12. I need a candy pop bud, man. I need a candy pop bud. I began the day by laying off a Gatling growing from our Union and spawned in the boss encounter in the Armored Cannon Beetle arena, which ended up being a massive raging longlegs. I wasn't about to take him on quite yet though, and began to search for a blue or yellow candy pop bud, as I felt that acquiring more of either blue or yellow Pikmin was more important than dealing with the boss. It's really pivotal to make sure that the candy pop bud is as far away as possible from both walls and awkward terrain, as sometimes the converted sprouts can fail to plant.
Oh, where do those guys get planted, man? Did we lose Pikmin there?
With no luck in my quest to convert my Pikmin, I ended the day by defeating the raging longlegs and continuing to chip away at this log bridge. It's only day 12. We still got plenty of time. I feel like it's not going so well, but we have time is what we have. Although I literally did this bridge already and this thing destroyed it, which is mad annoying, but here we are. I began day 13 in the Forest Navel and experienced some difficulty just trying to get my red Pikmin out of the onion. One red down, I moved on to work on the pair of log bridges that led deeper into the cave. My goal was to work bottom to top, retrieving the 2 parts I left down there on day 11 first. Unfortunately, a lot of my time this day was wasted dealing with this Snagret who took 3 more of my Pikmin's lives. Regardless of the less than stellar day, I managed to bring both the secret safe and Zirconium rotor right next to base ready to be collected. The only area experiencing clear weather on day 14 was the Distant Spring, but I didn't have too much more I could do here without a lucky candy pop bud spawn. This guy's still working on the bridge. I'm about to pop him in the mouth. Hold on. I was getting really frustrated with the Burrownit who kept undoing my progress on this bridge, as this would be the 3rd time I had to build it out this attempt alone. No, okay, so see, yeah, there's a yellow candy pop bud, but it's right next to a wall. If I throw Pikmin in here, they'll go onto the unplantable surface that's the wall, and I'll lose them. It's not viable. There's always a purple candy pop bud right here. On the beach, anything? Another purple? God, dude. And a blue over here. Blue candy pop bud in the water, yellow candy pop bud in the water, and inaccessible. My search once again turned up empty for a suitable conversion zone, and I began to work on finally retrieving the Libra from the Cannon Beetles arena. After dropping the Libra off at base, I was at a loss for what else I could do. I couldn't get the Sagittarius without more blue Pikmin, couldn't get the Radiation Canopy without more yellow Pikmin, and trying to get this Dweevil to move the massage machine over the water was not working. With nothing left to do with the day, I flowered some Pikmin and hoped for good weather tomorrow. Clear day in the Forest of Hope. This is the first time this has happened in a long time. I am going to go to the Forest of Hope. I'm hoping our candy pop bud luck is better here. Simply taking your Pikmin out can be risky, and that's evidenced by the beginning of day 15, where we immediately were under attack by 2 cannon beetles and a greatish spotted jellyfloat. After dealing with the unwelcome guests at our base, I began to explore the level again and finally spot an easily accessible candy pop bud. Okay. I bring my blues to work on the Sagittarius Island bridge and let my purples finish up on the one on shore. After that, I began to make my way toward the location of the Whimsical Radar and Extraordinary Bolt. The enemies over here were kinda out of hand though, and I was forced to turn back after some of the purples were gobbled up by a snagrit. I did move the Nova Blaster down from its perch, and was able to bring the Geiger counter closer to base. I rounded out the day by converting 32 of my Pikmin to yellows, hoping that the weather in the spring was palatable on day 16.
Rain of rocks, earthquake.
It wasn't, so I went right back to the Forest of Hope. Halfway through the challenge, I have 2 parts collected and 12 parts by base, which puts us cleanly behind a part a day pace. After dealing with a Gulix at spawn, I headed back to where I left the Nova Blaster to see if I could clear a path to get it back. It's pretty optimal not to destroy the Stone Gate by base, as it'll cause Pikmin to carry both the Radar part and Extraordinary Bolt part through the dreaded Hallway of Hell, which pretty much always spawns a Gulix. For safety reasons, I try to deal with it, but lose a blue to a Doodlebug that spawned inside of it. Abandoning this task, I focused on the Nova Blaster, babysitting it all the way back to base. There wasn't very much time left in the day, so I used a squad of yellows to try and deal as much damage to the Blackstone Gate as possible. I ended up losing another couple Pikmin here, but that's why I grew 32 yellows and not 30.
Okay. I think that was pretty successful. Despite other things happening, we retrieved sort of the Nova Blaster. We have 61 yellows, hoping for a clear day. Clear day in the distant spring, and I'll go immediately. Earthquake, mating season, the snap, and mating season. Oh, guys, it's time for some weather. I'm gonna do the earthquake. Oh god, I'm gonna do the earthquake as much as I don't want to.
I now had the yellows necessary to retrieve the radiation canopy, but earthquake happening in the spring is my least favorite weather to contend with. Reluctantly, that's still where I decided to go, as we were running out of time. I dealt with some enemies with my purple Pikmin and brought out the yellows to accomplish my main task of the day. Despite the shaking ground, I successfully get the radiation canopy down, and that's pretty much the only yellow exclusive part there is, meaning I'm now free to turn my yellows back into a more helpful type.
Okay, so now that we've gotten the required yellow Pikmin part, I need to look for a blue candy pop. That's a blue candy pop right there. I could turn literally almost all the yellows, dude. Okay. Oh, it's that spot.
Of course, there was a cannon beetle blocking our path, because why wouldn't there be?
Some of you may die. Unfortunately, I don't have a choice in the matter. How many? 0! Huge for the program, baby! Ow. I got earthquake, though. Everybody's fine? Everybody's blue! Let's go!
I didn't lose a single Pikmin to Candy Pop Bud jank, which I'm thankful for, and now I had over 70 blues to work with. Each Candy Pop can only convert 50 Pikmin total, so I'd have to find another one to retrieve the 80 weight parts in the Forest Navel.
2 Emperors. We'll see which way this decides to go. Is there a decorated cannon beetle over here? There is not, just a bunch of little Bulborbs. Okay.
With my large blue army, I was finally able to retrieve the Sagittarius we revealed all the way back on day 5. With no more time left in the day, all I could do was wait out the countdown.
No, we do not have all the parts here. I need to get the Zirconium Rotor part, which is the massage machine, and then the Ionium Jet part, which is the Zirconium Rotor. Ow.
Day 18 was another clear day in the spring, but the enemies were a massive issue for us, with 2 decorated cannon beetles and a Gatling Groink able to kill 3 more of my purples over the course of the day. Since both these beetles spawned in the water, they were much more difficult to take down. In fact, I didn't even bother killing the one by the massage machine as I kept losing purples to drowning. So I just unlocked it, while my Pikmin carried the massage machine closer to base. I definitely wanted to complete the spring with this day, but ended up falling super behind pace because of these enemies. Determined to try and finally complete the spring, I descend onto it again on day 19, as the threat of the snap loomed over my head. Unable to bring my Pikmin out as they risked being immediately vaporized, I ran around the map with Olimar, defeating enemies and thinning the herd for the eventual snap.
Please, Thanos. You're my favorite character from Squid Game Season 2, Thanos. Please. I'm just gonna wait for the snap. Hope it clears some of this bullshit over here. Rush this part, and rush every other part. Okay, here's what happens. I get my Pikmin out, and then it snaps. And then it ends. That's what happened in the final trial. I'm not doing it again. I'm just gonna wait. I still have another 10-ish days.
Waiting out the snap unfortunately took the entire day, and all I could do with the rest of the time was move the Chronos reactor as close to base as possible. Every part in the spring is now decently safe to collect, and none of them are behind any Pikmin-specific obstacles, so I turned my attention to a different area for day 20.
I'm just trying to think of which parts we need. I need the Nova Blaster Radiation Canopy Extraordinary Bolt from the forest. In the navel, I need the... Oh, the Libra. Ooh, I need the Libra part. I made my decision. I made my decision.
Landing in the navel on day 20, I spent a bit of time carving out a safe area by the ship. I only have 78 blues, which means that I can't retrieve the anti-dioxin filter from the lake without first finding a blue candy pop bud. I make my way down into the cave, defeat more enemies, and start working on the black bramble gate guarding the path to the Libra part and analog computer. This section can be pretty diabolical depending on the enemies that generate, but I'm able to start moving the pilot seat as I work on the log bridge connecting to Libra Island. I'm able to drag the pilot seat pretty far, but ran out of time in the day before I could complete the log bridge. With clear weather in the navel again on day 21, it was an easy choice to return here. My first goal was to locate a blue candy pop bud, so I could finally have 80 blue Pikmin for the filter. I bring exactly 2 reds down into this pit of hell, convert them into blues, and carefully try to make my getaway. Unfortunately, these Matites had other plans, and scared one of my Pikmin so bad, he ended up right in the mouth of this orange Bulborb. This orange Bulborb was then immediately killed by a boulder. The circle of life, I guess. Frustrated, I have to return to base, get out another red, make my way all the way back down to the cave, convert him to a blue Pikmin, and come all the way back up. With 80 blues, I can now get both the Eternal Fuel Dynamo and the Anti-Dioxin Filter.
I need at least 2 more days in the Forest of Hope. 1 more day in the Distant Spring. 1 more day here. 4 days is 25. If everything goes right, we might have a lot of time for the final trial.
With the dynamo retrieved, I turned my attention to the filter, and was able to drag it all the way back toward base. The only treasure still in its spawn location is the radar on Libra Island, so that'll be my main goal for the following day. On day 22, I lose a purple Pikmin trying to escape from spawn, but successfully make it down to continue working on the log bridge to Libra Island. You might be thinking to yourself, don't you need yellow Pikmin for this part? Well yeah, they definitely make it easier, but with some precise throws, you can get purples up there no problem. With the radar now back at base, I quickly grab the interstellar radio as well, and move on to transporting both the guard satellite and the second Ionium jet that I began moving all the way back on day 10. With not a lot of time left in the day, I knew we were going to have to come back another day. Amazingly, we get a 3rd clear day in the forest navel in a row, validating my strategy of leaving parts to be collected to help improve our odds at good weather. Day 23 was the day that I was going to try and collect every part in the navel, but the weird combination of enemies at spawn made this easier said than done. I'm able to collect the anti-dioxin filter, the interstellar radio, and the eternal fuel dynamo before I was rudely interrupted by all the enemies on the dirt mound. This antenna beetle distracted some of my Pikmin and led them right over to it. This Snagret was on demon time and refused to spawn in a spot that I could effectively throw Pikmin onto him, and this situation was only about to get much worse.
Oh!
16 more Pikmin gone, and I'm officially below 100. Extremely over all the bloodshed, I finally take care of both the antenna beetle and Snagret, and start slowly collecting the rest of the ship parts in the area.
Because now that's 11, so we've gotten all the forest navel and all of the impact site. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's it.
With both the naval and impact site now completed, and the distant spring mostly done, the only area left for me to focus on was the Forest of Cope.
28 Pikmin lost today. What a shit show.
I descended into the Forest of Hope on day 24 during mating season, and cleared out many of the enemies inhabiting the landing zone. Also, I just want to show you this clip just to showcase one example of how the rules are just completely thrown out the window in Kaizo Ironmin. I don't know what happened here. This was the antenna beetle teleported or something. It was so weird. I was seriously losing patience with the never-ending onslaught of enemies, and lost some yellows simply trying to bomb the black stone wall. Mating season is incredibly annoying to deal with, and since enemies often end up killing each other, there's essentially always a never-ending swarm of larvae impeding your progress. All I was able to do on day 24 was break this black stone gate. I killed as many enemies as I could, but my main goal at this point was to keep the run alive. Darkness descended on the Forest of Hope day 25. But this is one of the least intrusive weather conditions, so I was happy sending it back. After dealing with the horde of enemies clogging up the path to the positron generator, I'm able to transport it safely back to base, mostly avoiding the hallway of hell. There are only 2 more parts I need to retrieve here, so I end the day by breaking down the white stone gate by base, killing as many enemies as I could, and using a Gatling Groink to destroy the bramble gate in the water. Day 26, we were obviously forced to go back to the forest, despite the rain of rocks. Naturally, I was being spawn camped by some Gatling Groinks, so I got out the purples and began to go to work. The rain of rocks was definitely a hazard today, and I lost about 15 Pikmin simply trying to maneuver safely around the map. I first decide to go for the part in the Armored Cannon Beetle's arena, and I'm able to sneak past the Raging Longlegs with the repair type bolt successfully. I planned on collecting the parts anyways, so I put this one right in the ship. The only thing left to do was try and speed blitz the analog computer, as I was starting to get insanely worried about my time remaining. I had at least 1 more day left in both the Distant Spring and the Forest of Hope, leaving me only 2 days for the final trial. Unfortunately, while distracting the decorated cannon beetle, I was hit, and the fiery snitchbug swoops down on my Pikmin transporting the computer and unalives about 10 of them. This was incredibly frustrating, as the difficulty only increases as the days go on and my army shrinks. Day 27, I decided to go back to the forest during mating season in order to collect the remaining ship parts. I was at a boiling point. This run was so promising early on, but I had lost over half my remaining army just over the last few days alone. As my Pikmin carried the analog computer back, I took my frustration out on a nearby dwarf bullbear. All there was left to do was put the remaining parts in the ship. The positron generator, the gravity jumper, the Geiger counter, the space float, the bowsprit, and finally, the Navel blaster.
That is all the parts in the Forest of Hope.
I ended the day and prayed for good weather in the Distant Spring.
Not the snap in the Distant Spring. I hate the snap. The snap would be the worst.
There was an earthquake, but we had to press on. As with any challenge that tests my sanity, this is when I started experiencing some tech issues, and my camera randomly decided to go out.
Is my webcam dead? What just happened there? What's going on here, guys? Oh boy, you guys see this. Okay.
I don't have the time or the bandwidth for this, guys.
I can't believe, it says it's out of battery. It's plugged into my computer. How do you run out of battery if you're plugged into my computer? Do you not charge fast enough? I have 2 days left.
Despite my super valid crash out, I set up my backup camera, steeled myself, and began to go to work for the final time in the Distant Spring. It was finally time to collect all the ship parts here. I grabbed the Kronos reactor, automatic gear, massage machine, Omega stabilizer, main engine, radiation canopy, shock absorber, UV lamp, and both the Libra and Sagittarius. We now had 29 parts and 2 days remaining to recover the last one from the final trial.
Wow, so complete. Except for the middle part, Except for the biggest part.
Ironically, the heaviest part, the gluon drive, was the last one we were going to get. With nowhere else to go, I descended into the final trial on day 29. There was an earthquake here, and a plethora of enemies by spawn, making it extremely dangerous to even get my Pikmin out. However, I didn't have the luxury to play safe, as with my extremely limited numbers, simply building the log bridges was going to take basically the entire day. For some reason, there was an abundance of fiery snitchbugs here, and working around them was going to be tough. I kill a couple of them, set my blues on the bridge, and get out my yellows and purples, hoping to begin work on the white stone gate, as well as the second log bridge. Of course, the enemies would not let up, setting my Pikmin ablaze, drowning them, and squishing them, all while I was constantly interrupted by the earthquake. I was able to destroy the white stone gate and complete the first log bridge, but I had lost 7 more Pikmin in the chaos, just trying to clear a path to the final boss.
Okay, no snap, no tightened weevil.
All of a sudden, it was day 30, and I had less than 50 Pikmin to my name. The snap. The dreaded weather condition that forces me into a stalemate with the game. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. It was all up to chance. If a dangerous boss spawned, I could run out of time and fail the attempt. With nowhere else to go and everything on the line, I descended into the final trial on day 30. And then... I knew we had a shot. I started by recovering the Pikmin sprouts that were left behind from the dead flowered Pikmin the day prior.
The snap needs to happen. I have 2 more sprouts left. There's a bumbler. I need to keep 10 of my purples alive. I think we're in the clear here. I do not want to get all my blues right now. I need the damage on the Wraith, believe it or not.
I didn't need yellow Pikmin anymore, so I converted them into purples and had them begin working on the remaining log bridge.
Thanos, bro, just do it! I have so much faith in my ability to take down a water Wraith, but I need the extraneous circumstances to just happen.
Thankfully, it didn't take very long to complete, and I was able to open up the Wraith's arena.
Now come on out, you beautiful watery specimen.
For some reason, it just outright refused to leave the arena, so in the interest of time, I decided it was best to kill it right then and there. I had been here before. I'd fought tooth and nail to come up just short of success in past attempts, and knew that if the snap happened at the wrong time, I would end up losing again, forced to restart the challenge from day 1.
Thanos, please, just do it already! I can't even carry it, guys. I can't carry it. I need more Pikmin out, but I can't get more Pikmin out because Thanos needs to snap!
My victory was inevitable. I quickly rushed back to base to grab the rest of my Pikmin. I needed everybody to carry this part. All I could do was wait, keeping my Pikmin in view to make sure the part moved as fast as possible. And with just 1 minute left in the day, I had done it. I've beaten Pikmin 2 Kaizo. I've beaten Pikmin 2 Lands of Torture. I've beaten Pikmin 3 Maximum Spice. But Chaos Ironmin is without a doubt the hardest Pikmin challenge that I've ever taken on. It's a brutal test of combat skill, time management, and test your ability to keep your Pikmin safe. I ran this format back in May, and I may have been the first person to beat the Chaos Randomizer with every binding enabled. But that doesn't mean I'll be the only one. If you're somebody who's ever pondered what a Pikmin Nuzlocke would look like, here it is. It's varied, it's strategic, and every single unit matters. In place of rampant damage calculations, there are hordes of dangerous enemies that you have to make decisions about. Instead of wild encounters, you roll for ship part placements and boss spawns. Just like in Pokemon, you can slowly bleed out over your run, and that snowball effect is perfectly emulated by the Ironmin setting. The reason I feel Chaos Ironmin best exemplifies a Pikmin Nuzlocke is because there are no ifs, ands, or buts. The format's tightly constructed, there's no mulligans for progress, no need for a strict deathless playthrough, and no perpetual bending of the rules to fit this vague concept of what a Nuzlocke even is. You start the game with these options toggled on, and your goal is to simply beat it. No mess. That's not to say there isn't merit to other rule sets that people have run to try and emulate the feeling of a Nuzlocke. And I even recognize that the sheer difficulty of Chaos Ironmin is a genuine barrier for players looking to attempt their own Pikmin Nuzlocke. But I can't get over the feeling that this format capitalizes on the strengths of the Pikmin series in a lot more unique and interesting ways than just a deathless playthrough.
It's so hard. I do not recommend anybody who doesn't have 1,000 hours in Pikmin 2 to play this game. Seriously. You'll get cooked. It's that simple.
My goal is nefarious. If you're someone looking to test your Pikmin skills in a new way, give this format a shot. You'll wipe a lot, but that's part of the fun. Don't try and do it all in one sitting like me, though. But if you do, please make a video about it. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you haven't, and subscribe to the channel for more.